Okay, Daf Lamed Gimel Amud Aleph by the Mishnah halfway down. If there were two oxen that were both toms that were fighting with each other, and they injured each other, the one that injured the other one more pays Hatzinezek on the left on the difference. So one did $500 damage, one did $400 damage. The difference of $100. The one that did the $500 of damage has to pay $50. They're both muad, mishnamim b'mutar nezek shalem, you pay for the full $100 difference. Echad tam ve'echad muad, if one was tam, one was muad betam mishnamim b'mutar nezek shalem. If the damage is done by the muad to the tam, he has to pay full. Tam muad, mishnamim b'mutar nezek, and if it's half, and if the tam did more damage, he pays half. Right? Simple. Basically, you pay what you are. Similar, two people injured one another. They both damaged each other. Then you just pay the difference, full damages. Adam mu'ad, Adam mu'ad. If the person and an animal was a mu'ad animal were hurting each other, and if one of them was greater than the next, either way you're paying full damages. Adam betam betam Adam. If it was tam and Adam betam if the guy did more damage, he pays full. If the tam did more damage, you're paying half. If the tam hurt the guy more, he pays full damages even though it's a tam. We're going to go through it all. Pasuk says, when the halacha is the same halacha, ox for an ox, half and full. Same thing applies damage to a person, from an ox to a person. Just like a tam pays half and muad pays full. So too an ox to a person, tam half, muad full. Rabbi Akiva Omer, nope. The minimum, not the top one. Therefore, you might think you have to pay by a time that injures the person. You have to pay even from the choicest of properties, right? You pay from property, not for the animal itself. You pay from the ox itself, and you don't pay from the property that you own. What do they do that extra word that Rabbi Akiva used? It says, that teaches you that you're patur from the 4 extra damages from an animal to a person, embarrassment, etc., pain, unemployment, doctor bills. You're not chayav for that by an animal to a person. Right? Only a person to person, you're chayav for that. He learns it from when a person hurt his friend, which means you pay for these extra damages when it's person to a friend and not an ox to a friend. But how come they don't use that pasuk as the source? That only means referring to pain. Maybe you might think you still have to pay for healing and employment. Therefore, Torah gives you another word, teach you that you are patur. Next Mishnah. Shor shaveh maneh shenagach shor shaveh ma'atayim. If a $100 ox hurt a $200 ox, and the carcass is now absolutely worthless, you can take the live ox as payment. Who's our author? Rabbi Akiva, is it according to Rabbi Akiva, the Tanya? Yoshab Hashor Bebedin. The ox as alive should be assessed and evaluated in court. The ox is automatically transferred. No questions asked, you just take it. So the Ma'ikam if he was the machloket based off of Rabbi Yishmael Savar Baal Chov Hu Vizuzehu de Masitle. You have to pay money, and you did damage. You have to pay money. They're now considered partners in the ox. The machloek is based on the same pasuk. They shall sell the live ox and divide its money, seemingly like Rabbi Yishmael, where it says this is just referring to bedin that they could sell the ox to pay that off, and until then it belongs to the original owner. But so it's referring to that the actual damagee and the damaged property have to sell it together, and therefore they're considered partners. Right? The first one means you owe money, sell the ox to pay. You could do that. Versus the second opinion holds no. When it says sell the ox, that means you're actually now they are suddenly both owners of it. What's the difference between them? Ikdishu nizak ika b'nai. What's the difference if in essence, if they both basically have to sell it? The answer is let's say the case of the nizak, the damagee made it hektish. According to Bishmael, it's not hektish because they're not partners. And Rebbe Kiva hold it is hektish. By minute of Nachman, I have a question. According to this halacha, according to Bishmael, if the damager sold the ox, according to Ishmael, what's halacha? Given the Amar Ishmael Baal Chovu Bezuzehun Tamasik since he sold someone else, he sold it to Levi. So therefore, if the damagee Shimon is considered a Baal Chov, a creditor, and he owes a loan, so then maybe Machur, it's sold, and then he can't do anything about it. Or perhaps you could say, Kevan, the Mishabed Linzak Lav Kokmina. Maybe since he quote unquote has a lien on it, because it's he has to oversee the sale basically, even though he's not a partner. Maybe he should not be able to sell it. Where it says Amarle in a Machur, according to Rahman, it says not sold. But the Berta says it's sold. Yes, it's sold, but the guy can retract it. He can take it back. Right, so you just told me that the guy can back out of it, make the guy back out of it. So why would you say it's a good sale? Oh, it's a good sale, but you can take it back. What does that mean? Mar said, it's referring to where it was sold for plowing. Meaning, if the guy used it for plowing before it was retracted, you don't have to pay him for the usage because basically he bought it and he refunded it. So therefore, if I used it, it's not like I rented it. It was my ox that I bought it, and now I have to return it to you. Okay, take it back. But I used it for a week. I'm not paying for that. Okay. Right? Seemingly, according to the Nachman, it sounds like that if a person borrowed money and then sold his property, the Betin can collect it from him on behalf of the lender, even though, right? So until now, we know that there's liens on karka, on property. But over here, seemingly, there's even a lien on movable property. Where it says, Shanihatam Dichman Da'aso Aputikidami. We say, no, not a good proof that you're able to make lien on movable property, but this case is different. Because why? It's as if this case of an ox is considered an aputiki. An aputiki, as we mentioned before, is something like we mentioned apoti hekai. It's an abridged version of those words, which means here it shall stand for you. So therefore, when the person makes an aputiki in general, he's basically saying this is like a standing collateral. This is something that you can take whenever you want. So therefore, you can therefore when the ox was sold, you could take it back because technically you had no ability to sell it because it was a standing collateral for me. That's an aputiki. Someone made his slave an aputiki. Sorry about that. My daughter touched me and it's gonna living dead out of me. Okay, so someone takes the video and sends it to the chat, I'm gonna be very upset. Okay, so according to this, we brought up when Abbas is a question. If a guy made his evid in a putiki and he sold it, the guy can collect it. Shor apotiki machro in a gove meno. We said, however, someone uses an ox in a putiki, which Rabbi just said, which our case just said, it doesn't work. And over here, sorry, our case said that the ox can be an apotiki in our case. And over here, we were clear by that said that it does not work. But the Gemara says, Eved my time. Why doesn't Eved work? Because Mishum de Itleka, because an apotiki designation for a slave is public knowledge. People know that it was a standing collateral. Word gets out. Hainami, because therefore over here also, this case of a shore does work also. Given the nagach, la itle, the Torah nagach karunne, right? Now that this thing gored, this ox gored, this ox is now Mr. Famous Ox in the block, and therefore you can make an apotiki because everybody's familiar that it was a goring ox, and therefore it's a good apotiki. Tachlifa said, Maharo in Machor. He sold a live ox, it's not sold. Hikdishu Mugdash, but he made it hektish, it's hektish. Machroman, who sold ox? Iliam Mazik, if the damager sold it, Maharo in Machora Mani. If he sold it, it's not sold. Right? Who's that according to? Rabbi Akiva Hidamar Hulatashor. Is it according to Rabbi Akiva who said that the ox is automatically transferred to the damagee? Hikdishu Mugdash Atana Rabbi Ishmael, but in the second half, that says that you're able to make it hektish, right? So seemingly, if you can't sell it, it sounds like the damagees. But if you make it hektish, that sounds like according to Ishmael. That holds the Amar Yushama Shul Betin, which means that the owner has to bring the shore to Betin because it's his. So who is it? Is it the owner or the damagee? Meaning, the halacha is that it's yours enough to make it hekdesh, but not yours enough to sell it Whose opinion are we following? It sounds like smack down the middle. Nizak really means it's the damagee who sold it. Therefore, if it doesn't work, who's it according to? The sale? The Bishmael sounds like it's according to Bishmael. Hikdushu Mugdash, but if you say the same thing, if it's Hekdish, Atanah Kiva, sounds like that's according to the Kiva. So again, either way you cut it, doesn't make sense. Mazik, it belongs to the damager, but it belongs to, and everybody agrees to it. Why? In this case, if he sold it, it's not sold, even according to the Bishmael. The Hamish Abdilin, exactly because over here it's under lineage to the damagee. Made up that word. Hekdishu Mugdash. If you made Hektish, Rabbi Akiva would agree to it. It's Hektish. Mishum de Rabbi Avau, because Rabbi Avau. The Rabbi Avau, Gizera Shema Yomru Hektish Yosef Belo Pejon. The reason why, even though the guy has a lien on the item, I could still make it Hektish is because we don't want people to think that something that was made into Hektish and then claimed back without payment, people might think, oh, look at this. This guy was podeh, this item, or you're allowed to be podeh an item, you're allowed to redeem something without paying anything. You're allowed to just take whatever you want. So because of Marit Ayin type of scenario, people might learn in the wrong halakha, we say it stays in Hektish, even according to Rabbi Akiva. Short time shezik, an ox at the time damaged. Before the owner stood for judgment, he's able to sell. Not the chatila, but if he sold it, it's sold. It works. If he slaughtered and gave it as a present, it's done. Once it stood in court for judgment, we can't sell it. Let's make it hektish. Right? And we're not worried about the thing that we said before, because if this was already made hektish, then people are not going to think that people are not going to think that you could take it for free from hektish, because everybody knows that this was not supposed to be made hektish in the first place. If you slaughtered and gave it away as a gift, it does not work. If creditors of the damager took it before the damagee took it, right? So the guy owed $100 to someone and he just took the animal instead before the damagee party took it and collected it. Ben have achelo hizik, ben hizik achelo have, whether or not the debt happened before or after the damage happened, lo asab lo kum, it still does not work. He has to give the ox to the damagee party. Because the damage has to be paid from the ox's body, and therefore they have no business touching it. Mu'ad shehizik, if the case of mu'ad damage, whether or not it stood in court yet, he can sell it. It's considered hektish. If he slaughtered and gave it away as a gift, it's done. If the creditors took it before the damagee took it, if they took it, whether or not the loan happened before or after, it's a good takeage by them. They get to keep it. Because you're not paying with the ox, you're paying with property. And therefore, okay, you took that. I'll take it. I don't care. I'm getting paid with real estate. When he says that the time was the gourd, it's sold. This would mean that it was sold for plowing, meaning like you're renting it. If you made it hektish, it's according to Rabbi Avau. That's why it works. Because we're worried that people might get the wrong idea, because it didn't stand up to court yet. If he slaughtered and gave it as a gift, it works. I understand that he gave it as a gift, it works. Because you could use it as, you could say I gave it for plowing, then confiscate it afterward. But if he slaughtered it, why does that change anything? Take the meat that the guy gave away as a gift and confiscate it and give it to the guy. Tanya, as you know, when the Torah says that you sell it live and divide the money, and the other high. That only works. I know that it works while it's alive. How do we know that you could use it if it's slaughtered and sell the meat? As long as you sell the ox, I don't care what state or how many pieces it's in. So therefore, why does it say that it works? Because over here it's referring to a case where it lost value by slaughter, right? So you are patur from paying the difference of loss of profit because it was depreciation because of the slaughter. It sounds like that if I damage the lien of someone else, meaning so if I had a lien on a property and someone burns down the field, so instead of worth $5,000, now it's worth $3,000, Sounds like you're patur. So here also, you depreciated the ox by slaughtering it, now turning it to pieces of meat, and you're patur from paying the difference. So can you lower the damage? Are you able to damage someone's lien? Gemara says pshita. Seemingly yes. Obvious. Gemara says, you might think that doesn't work. Why? In the case of the slaughtering, you might think he's patur because he can say to the holder, the damagee, I didn't deprive anything of you. I just took the wind away from you, meaning the ox is still here, and I just slaughtered it. Very interesting, Mashon. Because it's not like I can't walk over to your ox and kill him and say the same thing. Oh, it's still here. I just slaughtered it. It only works over here because it's a leaned item, and therefore he could say, the leaned item is still here. Okay, interesting. But in general, you're chayav. Therefore, you say no. Even in general, you are patur. Hanami Amar also this Rabba says. Someone burned his friend's documents. They're patur, right? Even if he burned like a document of credit. So we see that you're destroying leaned items are patur. So where it says you might think that it also doesn't apply here. Over there, in the case of documents, you might think it's patur because you can say I only burnt the paper, but the property is still there. Maybe in a case where I physically damage the property by building holes on it, by building caves in it, I should be chayav. Therefore, you say patur. Because here in the case of slaughtering, it's the same type of comparison to digging a hole in the property. The Kamar Masha says, and Rabbanan said that it worked. Okay. In the case of the ox, we said if the creditors took it, whether or not the loan happened before or after the damage happened, it does not go through by a time because you have to pay with the ox, and therefore they had no business taking the ox. Based on the makes sense according to the opinion that holds that it was damaged before the credit. Nizakin kadmu. Therefore, the damage happened before the loan, and therefore they have first dibs. But if the debt happened before the damage, they should have first dibs, right? I'm very happy. I feel terrible that his ox gored your ox, but I had first dibs in his property way before your animal got damaged. It says, and even in the case where the ox damaged before the debt happened, the guy could still grab the payment first. If he grabs payment first, it's not my problem. It's your problem. I mean, does that mean that if a guy has two creditors, if a guy borrowed money on Sunday, a guy borrowed money on Monday, the guy who borrowed money on Monday can't grab money first? Who cares? Mar said, no, don't tell me that. In general, if Monday guy grabbed his money first, it's fine. It's only happened, but in the case that the ox is different with the creditor, the Amar Le, because the damage you can tell him, if the ox had been your possession before it gored, I can't take it on him. Because that ox damaged me, I have to take payment from it. Meaning, only in this case is different, is because I need to confiscate that ox to pay my damaged fees. And therefore, because I need to take that, that's why that ox is kind of, I have first dibs on it. Okay,